Hey everyone, welcome to Naked at Sunrise, a show of, a show based on faith, authenticity, and victory. As you come in, please begin to share the link. We're excited to have you in here with us. May God bless you in the name of Jesus. Is anyone out and is anyone here? I see three people. Please leave a comment. Let's identify where you are joining us from. And let's get this show on the road. First, we apologize for starting a bit late. We had some technical glitches, and we're trying to resolve that even in the back end. Masuta kayeneme sentele prakuska tele ketelibra. Ezende ye makus kandali katala gede gede. Ebrados kodomi katali gadesh. Ezende lika kataliga da gede kete. Brasukota kayege de miga. Ajeke lika 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 dash. Zentele kele kelika kalege telika talika. Brazu tokotoma katiska. Thank you, Lord. I worship you, oh God. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for what you will do. You are the King of Kings. You are the Lord of Lords. You are the immortal. You do exceeding. You do abundantly. You do above. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Masika telegedege. Stafola Shade, thank you for joining us. Beatrice, welcome. Please share, please share, please share, please share. We had a great time with Eden the last time that we were here. That was in the month of January. And now we're going into another explosive, um, impacting and impactful conversation. Remember that the first time she told us about how she found out about cancer, that she had cancer, and how she went through all of that, was processed through that, and then after she had gone through that, it turns out again that she had a second cancer, and we didn't have the time to dive into that second cancer. But let me not tell her story for her. So I would just ask my producer, Stahunene, to help me bring Eden in, and let's have this conversation. God bless you. God bless you. Hey, 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 hey. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Yes. All righty. So let's do this. Welcome back. Talk to me from between the last time that you were here and now. You've been to Nigeria. You've gotten ordained. You have you've done all the in 7 days or 10 days. You went through a whole lifetime. Tell us a little about that before we dive into today's conversation.
So I went to Nigeria. Please let me know if the audio is good. Let me know if the audio is okay. So I went to Nigeria to train some, ministry leaders. Then I got ordained without them planning it. I don't know. I just and went to preach somewhere and came out with ordination as pastor. No, wow. I didn't know this kind of things can happen like this. But I
Well,
think so. I got ordained. I went in. They finished, and they just said they had to ordain me, and I was speechless. I'm not often speechless, but I was speechless. But I think the icing on the cake is that BMM. I met you physically for the first time.
yes, and I met your larger than life tiny self. Yes, and thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you even more for the gift you came bearing. God bless you.
When I came, BMM was looking at me for 1 minute, like this is the Eden. Because she was expecting somebody that is as tall as Elia, but she just saw this little David that that just entered. Now, wow, so good to meet you. So good to finally meet you in person.
Yes. Ha. So talk to me. Let's go back to do a summary of our last conversation. That last conversation, the thing that kept ringing in my head, and I talked about it for many days was the fact that when God is processing you, if you cannot bear fruit, at least take root. That was one thing that I can never forget. The second thing you said that I held on to and I kept sharing is the fact that there are some principles that you may go through a process. You can have a victory and not have the principles to replicate that victory. That processing and allowing ourselves to be processed with the right attitude is how we get the principles to replicate our victories. As I thought about it, I said to myself, not just your victory, but even the victory of others. Even the victory of others can be replicated if you can replicate your victory in the life of others, rather, if you did it well. If you did it well. So let's take off from there. Everyone is here, and I think there more people are coming. The last link we had went to Dodge, and I think a lot of people are not here yet. I'm not even sure if we're streaming on Facebook. It doesn't look like we're streaming on Facebook. Are we on Facebook? So we're not streaming on Facebook. Nana, please, could you add Facebook? Okay, looks like we are actually. Okay, but what Facebook are we streaming on? Because it's not it's my Facebook. Oh, there. Okay. Anyway, let's go on, Eden. I'm sorry. Today, technology is dealing with us, but we are
So
okay with that.
BMM, no need to apologize. Everything is flowing exactly according to plan.
Okay. All right then. So tell me, where do you want us to start from?
So I think we should start from the second cancer diagnosis. But BMM, I think there is a sound. I'm not sure if the sound is from me. So I want to make sure that we don't have a cackling sound.
Okay. You may have sound if you have two devices on. If you're signed in on two devices, you would have sound. So you need to log out on the one that you're not on live on. You're muted now.
Knock up the YouTube because I'm only signed on to one StreamYard.
Okay. No, but your sound is fine here. I actually think your sound is fine, better today for me than it was
Yes,
the last.
I removed the microphone. The microphone is not compatible with StreamYard, so I've removed the microphone.
Okay, that's great. So let's go on. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to
No, you don't
me.
understand. You don't even understand my excitement. I came and I saw you wearing like that. I said, "This is alignment."
Today is another day. Yeah.
So, a little fact: this gift is one of the gifts I received in Manifold Church. A cancer survivor, someone in cancer treatment, gave it to me. So I just felt
Oh,
that, but yes, someone in cancer treatment gave me this, and I was meeting her for the very first time. We had been in communication for 2 years. So I felt like the best honor was to wear it for this conversation. So that's just a little behind. So the second cancer diagnosis, BMN, what do you do when you felt like you won the first battle and you were not prepared for the second battle?
what do you do?
What do you do?
Do you want me to answer that, or you want to try and you want to answer your question?
Now, I want you to answer it in a minute, and just set the tone for the perspective. Then I will share the second cancer
Well,
diagnosis.
as someone who's gone through many battles over and over and over, I think that the greatest gift you can give yourself is the lesson you learned from the previous battle, is what you use to fight in the next one. And just so that we know, I want to say this again, that a battle is a battle not because of its magnitude, but because of the person who receives the battle. It depends on who you are, your capacity on the inside. So for someone, a battle can be a headache, and for another person, a battle is cancer. Just so that we have perspective this morning. But yes, my 1 minute is up. Please go on. Hey, Bookie, good morning. Thank you for joining us. God bless you.
BMM be dropping bomb casually, just be walking and dropping the bomb, and what you said is that when you have to fight the battle the second time, It's no longer about the battle, but the person in the battle.
Yes.
And I love what you said, because I'll put it this way: it's not the size of the dog in the fight as much as it's the size of the fight in the dog.
But no, that's so, that's so.
Dog. Yes, it's the fight in the dog, not the dog in the fight. And you know, BMM, you get to the point where the popular question is, what is in it for me? And the new question should be, what is in me for it? Not what is in it for me, but what is in me for it. So the truth of the matter is
Why
in me
did God
for it.
trust me this much? Why did God trust me this much? Why? Because it, I keep saying to people that it's a vote of confidence that God will take you. You did so well in the first exam that they said, let's set another one for her. I know we're very humble people, and sometimes we go through these things and we just say it's to the glory of God. And yes, it's to the glory of God. But if God gave you capacity to fight, that's what it be. You passed the first one in so much that God said, my poster child, come in for another one. What is in me for it? That's so powerful. Please go on.
And that's where I want to start. I want to start from the conversation of the question, the quality of the questions we ask when there is affliction. You know, I started reading your book. You have so many wonderful books. If I know your community is plugged in, but just a shameless plug. If you've not read our books, please go and get our books. I don't feel like our books are books. I think they are classics. They are kingdom classics. So incidentally, I was on a clubhouse teaching with my mentor, Dr. Larry Lushola, last week, and I referenced your book, Abiding. I actually listed 5 points on pruning. On pruning. And the first point is that pruning is heaven giving you a vote of confidence. Pruning is like that conversation between God and Job, and God and the devil. Say, have you considered my servant Bidemi? Have you considered my servant Eno? Have you considered my servant Idu? So when I got the second diagnosis, BMM, I was confused. I was not just confused. You know, you want to hear I was angry. I mean, the first time I wasn't even angry. The first time I was ashamed. I thought about shame. There was a lot of shame. Like, how do I articulate that a child of God has cancer? The first time it was more like shame and confusion. Like, it will appear like I didn't pray enough. What did I not do? But the second time it was full blown anger. It
Who were
was
you
almost like
angry at?
I was defiant. Like, like I said to God, it looks like you have an overestimated it looks like you have an overestimated sense of my strength. God, it looks like you think I'm stronger than I am. I was begging God on behalf of Eden, as if I was not Eden. Honestly. Because put things in perspective, Pastor Bidemi, before the second cancer diagnosis, I'd lost my mom just 3 months. I was in active
Oh dear.
grief. Yes.
Oh dear.
I lost my mom August 29, 2021. We laid her to rest in November. I come back from the burial and go to November, December, January, and now go for the second checkup. It's an annual checkup. It's not even it's a checkup every year. Every year they just clear you. So guess what? That was my highest point of checkup. BMM. That's the checkup that after 5 years, the one every survivor is waiting for. So that they tell you that you are NED. NED simply means no evidence of disease. So you do one, check up year 2, check up year 3, check up year 4. Slightly before the check up year 5, my mom, who is not just my mom that had been the only surviving parent for at least 17 years. She's mom was father and mother. Dad had passed 20 years. So mom was father and mother, and mom was also my mentor, spiritual mentor. So this huge icon of faith suddenly passes away. And 3 months later, I go for the test that is supposed to be the ringing of the bell. In fact, I took a photo in front of MD Anderson wearing a jersey that I made, and that jersey had canceled but not cancelled. I took the picture thinking that I would quickly post and say, yes, we declared it, did it because God is faithful. He said he will, And immediately they said, sorry, ma, we found another calcification, confusion. I said, what is calcification? By the time they articulated it, for me, the timing was off. Everything was off. How do you get to wait for the crescendo of celebration to tell me that I had to start again? How do you restart the clock on year 5? Why do I got to wait? Let me be American for a minute. Why do I got to wait 5 years for the highest point of my celebration for you to tell me that that celebration is a recalibration? Why? How did my celebration become a recalibration? And why, like, is there no instrumental affliction? Is there no other person
Wait,
you can nominate for
wait,
this?
wait, wait,
Eh?
wait, wait. Why you still
Sorry,
dey vex? Why you
sorry,
still dey
sorry,
vex? Calm down,
sorry,
calm
sorry.
down.
As it may be, as it may
It's
be.
mental affliction. These your expressions, they crack me out. Then I have to try and behave myself. But you guys know me, I don't know how to behave myself. Instrumental affliction. I want us to press into that because people don't know. The Bible says, let me tell you, Eden, why there is instrumental affliction. The Bible says, sufficient for the day is the strength thereof. He had to build strength in you to go through again. You thought you would have survived it at year 2? So, believers, you need to understand this instrumental affliction. I'm writing it down. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, man, because I'm asking, can't you distribute this affliction? Let it go round one set. Why did he have to come back to me? For me, one of the worst things that had happened to me had happened. My mother died. 2 of the toughest or 3 of the toughest, every grief is hard. But, the loss of a child and the loss of a mom is still ranked one of the debilitating. The loss of a father is hard. My father was a good God man. But nothing prepared me for the devastation of emotions that I felt when my mom died. When my mom died, I felt like I was stripped. I felt like I was moving around naked. Mothers are such a covering, spiritual covering, that even if we have a sick mother somewhere, she's there. Even the weight of our unprayed prayers carry you. I felt, in fact, I wrote in my journal, BMM, that this feels worse than cancer. Only for me, 3 months later, still in grief. January 14, 2022. Tell me, sorry, we found calcification. I was livid with anger at that point. I was angry. In that moment, I looked at God. I said, I think you have an overestimated sense of my strength. I said, I am not the strong one you think I am. I have no more strength.
If I'll just interrupt you for a moment because I like to draw out these highlights. My husband, I still tell my husband when I remember that the one book he would write and it would become a bestseller like that is based on a message he thought many, many years ago. I think close to 20 years ago. He thought this message, he taught this message, and the title was, You Are Stronger Than You Think You Are. You are stronger than you think you are. When God takes us through things and builds strength from the inside out, 80% of the time, we have no idea what God is doing. And until you get to a test, that strength doesn't show, because who just wakes up and begins to lift things unless there is a need to lift things? Which person will run outside and begin to lift up a car? Lift a car if the person does not have a nervous breakdown for no reason. But if their child is there, that's why we've had accounts of a mother whose child was caught under the tire of the car, and this mother by herself lifted the car. It is what the enemy throws at you that brings out the strength that God has built in you. The problem is most of us don't allow the strength to be built in us. And I actually know that a lot of people avoid these conversations. And that's why when something happens, they fall to their faces and they can't rise. This is powerful because you didn't think you had the strength. But I'm waiting to hear the lessons you learned in this time.
So
Amazing.
it's not that I didn't think I had the strength. I didn't have the strength. It's not even about things.
And
You understand?
you didn't
I was
have the
barely,
strength. You did.
I was barely holding on for life. There was one night I felt like my heart was leaving my body. I'd seen the lifeless body of my larger than life mom with all the craziness and drama that comes with burial. So I barely came back and just wanted to rest and rebuild my life. The new reality of life that mom was not going to be in. And I don't know about you, but the word hit different. The word fatherless was different from the word orphan. I'd become an orphan. You see, it's different. It's not, my father is dead. No, I was a full blown orphan at that point. And I was coming into terms of this new identity, almost like an identity crisis. Who am I? And in that moment, just trying to barely rebuild, get back on a fast because I'd done grief eating, I'd just been a mess emotionally. I finally got back and said, okay, God, you know what? I can trust you again. Let us rebuild. Let me rebuild, and receive the revelation that God is not just Father, Abba, He's El Shaddai, Mother. So I'm like, okay, I want to cut a covenant with you as my El Shaddai, my mother now. Okay, so then almost like God, I want to give you another chance to be good to me. Hey, I want to give you a chance, God, to be good to me. And I entered on this 70-day fast. I think I may have been on day 15 or 16 when I went and they found the second diagnosis. At that point, I looked at them and said, whatever you find, keep it. That's how angry I was. Whatever you find, that's what I said to the MD, and I said, whatever you find, keep it. And I walked out of that door, went to the reception and looked at my husband. I just pitied this man. For a minute, he didn't know I was looking at him. I said, waiting this man, what did this guy sign up for self? Like, God, even if you will not pity me, pity this man. This man loves you. Like, I was looking at this man, I was pitying him. Then he looks up and like, hey, baby, the checkup is done. I went to him and sat down and said, actually, the checkup is done, but they found calcification. He said they found what? I said they found a calcification. So they want us to run 2 more biopsies. And I was looking for his face for clues of exasperation. He just said, I said, but my love, I can't do this again. I'm tired. He said, no. Let's do what they said. You are the most important person in this equation. And that's where my first strength came from, support system. That a man, even in affliction, had the perspective you important thing. And I remember with tears in my eye, I went back to the people I said, whatever you find, keep, and said, let's do it now.
Wow. So you are saying to me that you're saying to me, and I hope everyone is hearing, can hear you rather, is that that the person who is closest to you, whose voice you hear in the moment when God enlists you or enrolls you in a processing plant, the first voice you hear, or the first set of sound voices you hear, they matter a lot. They can infuse strength, or they can deplete you. That's what you're saying.
You put it very well. So someone needs to write this down. Faith is voice activated. Faith is voice activated. You see, in that moment of my exasperation and tiredness, when I looked to the face of my husband for clues that he was also exasperated, I'm sure he was, but he was all able to put his soul under government and his spirit under control, and looked at me and said, "If so," he reframed that moment by giving me perspective. Faith is voice activated. It matters what people are saying to you and who you are opening the portals of your spirit to hear. I said, I am done. I'm not going to do this. And the closest person to me said, it's okay. You are the most important person. And I went back and said, okay, let's do it. Faith is voice activated.
Okay, so I need to draw a line here quickly, because when we say, oh, the people that are close to you, they matter, a lot of believers read it to mean be secretive and don't tell anybody. There are times you get to, and this is one of those times, that someone else must speak over you. That's number one. Number two, the people who speak over you and speak faith activated things over you and not the people you just contract in the moment. It took a good marriage to have a man standing and say, don't worry, we are in this together. I don't want us to get it, because these things, God will keep building them, what about precept upon precept, line upon line. It's not, if you have been I know that grace is given, but if you've had a rotten relationship with your spouse, he may not even go with you to the hospital, let alone say the right thing to you in the hospital. So therefore, this is what I want to highlight, that when God brings us into these things, it impacts everyone around us. And because most of the time we have no idea what's coming, we need to do our best to run our relationships properly. Because if our relationships are run properly, then perhaps we would have the right voices over us. Some of us don't have spouses to do that. But do you have a friend? Do you have a sister? Do you have a brother? Isolation would destroy you in times like this. I want to say it. You can move on, because I'm just, you know me. I'm a teacher, and the teacher in me will not let me just.
Pastor Bidemi, you touched on a very important point. Isolation powers desolation. So to be honest, so the first thing is that the support, I cannot pretend that I didn't have a support system. The support system were part of the activators of my faith. My mom was one of them before she went to heaven. My husband is one of them. Even in that, my twin sister Thelma was one of them. Then I also had a few friends that are told, that stood in to, support me, take me to the hospital. I had the godmother of my first daughter, Gloria Osademet, will come all the way from Boston. She's an international caterer, and she will cook meals and stack up for months. She said to me, I don't want motherhood and cooking to be one of your, considerations. And in that second diagnosis, because of how confusing it was, I knew that I needed almost to plug up, like to power up. So that was one of the very first external people I told were two core mentors, Safela Durotoye and Dr. Lanre Shola. Because Dr. Lanre is my mentor when it comes to integrative coaching. He allowed me access to all those healing rooms, the healing rooms and all those integrative courses. I remember the first time I told FD, we were in his house in January, because the first thing that I did, I traveled. Once I got the diagnosis and I established that it was cancer, they got two diagnoses. One wasn't cancer, one was cancer. I broke bread with my husband and just told him I need to travel because I don't know what the treatment will be. So I traveled. And one of the reasons I traveled, I wanted to sort out a few things, but I also wanted to talk to one of the most important persons in my life. And that person is my twin sister. We had just lost our mom. I wanted her to know that she was not going to lose me. So I knew that I couldn't articulate that over the phone. So I went and saw and explained to her. And while I was telling her, I put boundaries on our conversation. I said, if I hear, hey, yeah, if you cry as if I'm dying, I'm out. You are not going to hear from me again. I said, I'm telling you this, not for you to question God or be mad. I want you to know that we have victory. I'm not going anywhere. Then I now told Fela Durotoye. So even in transmitting the information. I was making sure that the boundaries of my faith were not being violated.
That violation is what we allow because sometimes we don't know how to sit up and say to people, no, that conversation will not be had around me. We try to be respectful in cases where, like you said, we are being violated. So determine, I think that part of this is sitting down by yourself to determine how you want this to progress and how you want it to unfold. And then everyone else that you have this conversation with, make sure they recognize that this is how you are progressing and anything contrary is not welcome. You know, we must understand that fighting takes strategy. And when you are in warfare, anything does not go. You can't be in warfare, and especially one for your life, and you think that everything goes. This is the Christianity that is not taught on the pulpit because it cannot be taught on the pulpit. Warfare takes strategy. And so it's not a strategy of it's my mother-in-law, it's my father-in-law. It is a strategy of I am fighting by faith. I'm going to support it by sacrifices or by seed sowing. Just make sure you have an outlay of how you fight. And then step back and let those who can hold your hands in that time, because when you lack strength, you lack strength. And let them hold your hands. Go on.
Pastor Bidemi, you've shared some very profound thoughts, and I don't want us to miss it. Warfare takes strategy, and you said in the kingdom fight, anything does not go. Anything does not go. One of the first things that anybody I told, I said, if you treat this as if I'm dying, I'm out of your life. Like I already have this huge battle to fight. I don't need a yeah. I don't need pity. I don't need, like, I remember faith is voice activated. And energy is contagious. Oh my goodness. I don't know if somebody is getting what I'm saying. Energy is contagious. If I see this yeah look on your face, I'm out. So when I went and told Safela Duro Toye in his house, the first thing he did, he called his chef and brought communion. And we broke communion. Oh, yes. We broke communion and we sang. In fact, when I visited in January, I went back to his house and said to him, sir, do you remember exactly 3 years ago? I came with a red dress in your house and told you that I have cancer. I said, sir, fast forward 3 years today. I'm wearing a red pantsuit and we are celebrating. And in that moment, it's almost like we sang a memorial stone. Because after we full cycle, we sang it, and there was a song he sang, and that song is now a victory song between two of us. He sang this wonderful Yoruba song I learned at age 9. Oh, Melo, yeah, oh. Baba Olore, Iogo,
Yeah,
Ọlọ́run ọba,
Hosanna, ẹ ṣé o Baba. Exactly.
Pastor Bidemi, I stood in that moment singing the same song. We sang when there was this affliction. See, I want to encourage somebody now. God is at the end of that matter already. God is at the end of that matter already. 2 days ago, I had a situation and God dropped these words in my spirit. Somebody needs to write it down. He said to me, God is God. God is God. The problem is the problem. God is not the problem, and the problem is not God.
Let's be very clear. You see, what you just did, what God was trying to do, let me crystallize that principle for you, Eden, is the principle of definitions. A lot of us don't define things appropriately. When things happen to us, we just begin to model things over, and then we get into this potpourri of all kinds of things, and then we get lost. Those who I mentor know that I take pride in defining things properly. You must define. So part of defining a diagnosis such as this one is to arrive at the place where you know that God is God. The problem is the problem. The problem is not God.
And God
And
is not
God
the problem. Oh, let's say it again. God is God. The problem is the problem. The problem is not your God, and your God is not the problem. See, these four lines can carry you through. Like, God is God. Fantastic. The problem is not two separate things. Then God is not the problem. And the problem is not, see, if you remember this, you will never wallow in affliction. I didn't say you will not be afflicted. I'm talking about the wallowing, the sorrowing, the depressing in affliction. When God delivered this word, my spirit leapt for joy. And that moment when we sang the song, when we sang the song 3 years ago, we didn't know what the journey will be. The cancer was still there. It's not like we sang the song and the cancer disappeared. I just went to talk to my sister, make sure I was okay, connect with strategic support system that included spirit-led, emotionally grounded mentors. You see, I'm sharing this impact too, so that people will not say Eden did it alone. I didn't do it alone. The support system from my husband, the support
to
system
say
from mentors.
a few sentences. You said that a part of your definition, if I'd use that word, is I did not say that I will not be afflicted with cancer, because cancer is an affliction, my brothers and sisters. But I said I will not wallow. And I just wanted to highlight the power of attitude when you find yourself in an afflicted place. Because that was just about wallowing, is about attitude. And when God processes us, attitudes are intangible things that have tangible repercussions. Because you can't touch what a good attitude will be sometimes. I know people think it's in laughing and it is. No, sometimes you can be stoic and quiet, and yet your attitude is the right one. So again, for someone it doesn't have to be cancer. You may just be going through, there's no water in your house this morning and you're having a meltdown. Hey, recenter yourself, have a meeting with yourself. Is this the right attitude? And when it comes to attitude, I have never arrived at the right attitude the first time, just like that. I go quiet so that God can process me to the right attitude before I open my mouth. My only consolation and commitment to myself is I will not open my mouth with a bad attitude, not anymore. I will process it in my heart.
Pastor Bidemi, you need to repeat that. That is a game changer. I don't want you to rush over it. So the problem is not that I had a bad attitude, but I will not open my mouth with a bad attitude.
I will not allow, because unless you transmit it, it doesn't take root. So I'm not going to transmit it. I'm not going to give voice to it. I'm not going to give wings to it. I will instead make it an internal battle until God processes me out of it before I open my mouth.
And that's why I'm saying is scriptural. Because the mistake Zechariah made is that he opened his mouth with a bad attitude. So God shut him down.
Yes, exactly. And then you see this thing, when you think about it, that's why our mothers, they may not have known the spiritual implication. They raised us to say, if you don't have anything good to say, do not say anything. I like that wisdom. I say to people, that's native intelligence. I don't joke with native intelligence. Things my mother said that are the greatest wisdom, levels of wisdom that I've ever heard. But they came out of native intelligence. So you need to recognize that the enemy will not just afflict your body and then go and sit down. He wants you to agree with him by the words that you speak. He wants you to agree with him by an attitude where you begin to pity yourself. When nobody has said, hey, yeah, to you, you have done like this and say, I don't die, finish. And then from that moment on, he takes it and he begins to build it. One day, a long time ago, God showed me a picture of the devil standing before God. I had said something that I wasn't supposed to say with my mouth. And then the Lord said, "You want to see what this has triggered?" I said, well. And he opened my eyes and I saw the enemy standing before God. And the enemy was saying to God, it was Bidemi that said it. I'm just echoing it.
Pastor Bidemi, in spiritual warfare, that thing you just described is called casualty covenants. A casualty covenant is a covenant you inadvertently, unconsciously entered into with the validation of your words. I. When you say I'm finished, just because you lost a job, you say I'm finished, not job. I am finished.
I remember what
Look
I
at a
was saying.
child and call a child normally.
Yeah, those days, any small thing I'll be like, person go last for this Lagos. So, it was just a banter, and a dull girl would just say it and we just laugh. One day I heard God, he said, I said, "So," I said, one last for Lagos. I was like, he said, "No, it's okay if one last for Lagos, just tell me." And he said it to me in pidgin English like that, so that I will know that I'm not like everybody out of the street. I cannot be without boundaries. I'm frivolous.
Do Zeketa
Out of my mouth.
Pastor Bidemi, these casualty covenants are covenants that we inadvertently enter because the subconscious mind does not know what is a joke. It doesn't know that you were overwhelmed. What we say matters. I've talked about internal support system from my husband when I got the diagnosis. So I decided to let them carry the test. Then the first people I told were mentors that intellectually, spiritually, emotionally were ahead of me, or mentors that were carrying me. So that's the second support system. The third thing is what you've brought, the words. Let me tell you my storytelling. And storytelling, you can call it testimony. I changed the story. Let me tell you what I did. So when they called me and said, "Sorry, we have bad news. There's a cancer." They said, "Do you want the good news or the bad news?" I said, "Give me the bad news first, so that the last thing I hear will be good news." And they said, "Oh, it was cancer." I said, "And what's the good news?" He said, "It's not as serious as the first one, and it's not connected to the first one." So I said, wait. So you mean that this is not the cancer coming back?" They said, "Oh, no, it's another cancer." And in that moment, I said, "Can you give me 1 minute? Let me give God a praise break." I said, because in finding out something that day, you denied me the opportunity to celebrate. I owe it to myself to celebrate that God healed me of the first cancer. Forget about the second one. I said, "Give me 1 minute. Let me go back and say, God, thank you that what you said you will do, you did." I don't want to run off to the next prayer point when I haven't activated a praise report for the first one. I don't want to rush to the next prayer point. Let me go back and bow before the King of Eden, the keeper of Eden, and tell him thank you first. Then after I finish with it, I say, "Hey, what are you talking about?" Because if we don't understand this strategy, we keep moving from prayer point to prayer point and never really fully give God his flowers. I said to my doctor, "Give me a minute. Let me give God his flowers." And I don't know, somebody here needs to give God these flowers. You said if you get married, you are married now, you're already complaining about children. You have children now, you're complaining about school fees. When do you stop? Just give God his flowers. Give God his flowers for the thing you wanted him to do that he has done. Before you start asking him for the next, please, can you just stop and give God his flowers? Pastor Bidemi, we are a revolving prayer point this generation. We don't stop to just give God his flowers. You say, "God, if I get married, you are not married. Is the husband in father of the church?" So we are just a never-ending cycle of prayer points, and we become people who get used to the praise report fast and move to the next thing. So in that moment, I said, "Please, let me give God his flowers." That's one of the first things I did. Then I said to my doctor, "How serious it is?" She said, "We can move fast with the treatment." And you know what I said, Pastor Bidemi? Attitude. You know what I said? I said, "I don't know what the story is. I don't know how the process will be or what will change. I said, but I know how the story will end. Jeremiah 29:11. And guess what? My doctor said, Amen. I never had that kind of faith. Meaning, I know the process may be tough, but I know at the end, I declare the end from the beginning. So rather than announcing, sorry, I'm in cancer treatment, because I had to take another medical leave from work again. So when they say, you're in cancer treatment, immediately I said, no, I'm not in cancer treatment, Pastor Bidemi. I said, I'm on a wellness journey. I reframed.
Framing your words, flipping the script, writing a signature story. Mm, mm.
I'm not in
Uh,
cancer treatment. I'm on a wellness journey. That's I kept saying it. I kept saying
redefining. Mhm. You
February I
know,
had the surgery. I said I'm in wellness journey. I had radiation. Thankfully, I didn't need to do chemo again. Every day for 40 days, I showed up to MD Anderson for my radiation, dressing like this. Like, I'm not kidding you. It was difficult. But there's something called fashion therapy. I was dressing for my destination, not for where I was.
mm,
So they started looking
mm,
forward to seeing me. I wonder what she will wear today. If I share some of the pictures with you, you laugh. All the outfits I've not worn, evening gown. I'm not even kidding. I'm not playing with you because I'm not playing with you. I will dress up well. And I'm like, Father, I am walking my victory. This is a wellness journey. Pantsuit, like dressing every day. Once I enter, they start clapping. In fact, once I entered, my fellow survivors, as I call them, will ask me, so who did you come with? They didn't believe me, self. I was deep. I said, me, I came with me. No, 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 no. I
again,
said, which cancer patient are you supporting? I said, me. They're like, it's
oh, man. But
when, when they see the hospital band, that's when they knew that I was actually in cancer treatment. Was it hard? Yes, it was hard. Was it painful? Yes. Was my body brutalized? Yes. But I kept declaring I'm on a wellness journey, and there are many things I couldn't do. I didn't bother myself, Pastor Bidemi, with what I couldn't do or the limitations of my pain. There were things I could do. I could go live. I could do like this. And so, as a community, we delivered one of the strongest virtual conferences where we hosted 16 international speakers in August for 3 days. And the theme was Activate Wholeness.
mm, mm,
The
mm.
devil cannot cheat you without your permission. Aye.
Yes, what when you talked about the casualty covenant syndrome, that's what I've called it. When you unintentionally or align or misalign by the words that you speak and by your attitude. You know, it brought to mind something that I say to people, that a lot of believers are unconsciously negligent, because this journey from when we had our last conversation and we're having this conversation now, what has characterized this journey for you is intentionality. But a lot of believers are unconsciously negligent. What that means is that we come into situations, circumstances, seasons in our lives, and we do not take the time to frame these things properly. We don't define them well. We don't craft a story around it. We do not change scripts if they are not in our favor. And because of that, we become people who are unconsciously negligent. You are negligent not by choice. You are praying. You are asking everyone to pray, but you are negligent regardless, because all your windows are open. It's like someone who brings gold to store in their house and then hires security men, but his house have no windows and no doors. You are unconsciously negligent. You've done everything that they say you should do, but you've not done the first thing that you should do, securing your parameters by making sure that your house has windows and doors. All I'm saying with all of that, Torechi, is the fight is won on the inside. The battle is won on the inside before you do anything on the outside. That's what I'm saying. Our
And
time
the
is running.
fight, and the fight is won with the warfare of words. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And when I was saying it, I wasn't trying to sound inspirational. I was anchoring my belief that this is a wellness, because if I believed I was in cancer treatment, that thing is the second time, that thing is going to power my life in a wrong way. So I just said, you know what? So, let me tell you what that did for me. So I took time off work and I didn't feel bad. Because the thing is, we feel bad when we are looking at other people's lives, and when we are looking at other people's life and it looks like we are struggling. So by saying I'm on a wellness journey, I give myself permission to be out of work. I'm not feeling, oh my God, I'm losing all these bonuses by not meeting my goal. Why is my life like this? No, 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 no. I said I was on a wellness journey and gave myself permission to actually be on a wellness journey. Do you understand? And declare the end. I wasn't jealous of another person's journey. My journey is wellness. I wasn't angry that somebody else was not sick. I just embraced it, became Miss Mom, made sandwich for my kids, traveled. In that year, I went to 5 continents because I said I'm on a wellness journey. You see, there is a way you will suffer. So suffer long, or long suffering is a fruit of the spirit. But do you know why? Because if you embrace the suffer long, you will not suffer wrong. Oh my God.
I need you to take that again.
Long suffering is a fruit of the spirit. And what it simply means is that you delay gratification, and it means that you go through affliction with a God attitude, not with your natural
Yes.
temperament. So it doesn't mean that. So long suffering is not infinite suffering. It simply means that you are receiving.
To suffer well. Let's put it that way. To
Exactly.
suffer well.
Yes. So the Japanese calls it suffering with dignity. It's a Japanese philosophy. You are not trying to be a hero. You are just there's a dignity that, peradventure God is going to work some righteousness through this. Peradventure somebody can use this as a future yardstick. So let me put it that if you suffer, if you embrace long suffering, which is suffering long in God's way, you will not suffer wrong. Some of us suffer wrong. It's a waste of suffering. You just suffer for nothing. Nothing is produced. There's no gold. If you don't suffer long, you suffer wrong. So you just wasted it. The devil cheated you the first time, cheated you the second time. The devil took your time, took your money, took your body, and nothing happened. Nothing was produced.
Okay, let me announce to many people today you are suffering wrong. Because the thing about suffering wrong is that you can't stop the suffering, but you are now suffering wrong. If you could stop it, maybe, but you can't stop it, but you are suffering anyway. May we not suffer wrong in Jesus' name. This one reached to pray. May we not suffer wrong in Jesus' name. We have 4 minutes or thereabout left, but I want you to tell me, post cancer. And I want to quickly preface this question I'm asking. I say to people that I'm a cancer survivor is not an achievement. If that's all that your conversation is, every Sunday say, I survive cancer, every Sunday I survive cancer, please, let's free me, I know fit. What you do after that is what matters to me. You can't have gone through cancer 25 years ago and the only conversation you now, I'll say to people, I say, you mean God doesn't do new things? So please tell me how you are not just living your life in the bubble of I survived cancer. I want them to know that.
No. So for perspective, so that nobody misunderstands this conversation, is a big deal. But the
Yes.
question is not, this is how I put it, Pastor Bidemi. You survive, now what?
Now what? Yes. Is that now what I want to talk about? Because some people, I talk about building shrines around things. Some people build shrines around these things, and then it makes your everything that God put you through to bring you here for what is ahead. You refuse to talk about what is ahead and what you're supposed to be doing ahead, and just come in 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And I'm seeing that life is dynamic. I'm not saying this did not happen to you. Even if we said it, I can see the scar from here. And your story is your story. But how do you make sure that you can live a normal life and do other things that are worth celebrating without it being that the only celebration is in your life is I survived cancer.
And in 1 minute, I will share this because this is very important. So I asked them, you survived, now thrive. You survived, now thrived. You survived. What are we gonna do with it? So someone here, you survived. What are you gonna do with it? So this is part of what I'm doing with it. Oh my God, Pastor Bidemi, turning my privacy to advocacy, sacrificing my privacy for advocacy in the wellness journey while in active cancer treatment, setting up Eden Cancer Care Gifts, where just that year we delivered 15 baskets of care package to other women in active cancer treatment. I partnered with a kitchen in Nigeria, Silton Kitchen, to deliver what we call a moment of lift. We put a basket that has a little bit of everything that benefited me: socks, a lip balm for broken lips, things for your neuropathy, and the food, and put my affirmation book. So we hear of someone in cancer treatment, and they get a knock on the door, and they tell them you have a basket. From who? People I've never met. So I registered the Eden Cancer Care Gift Foundation, and in that same year, raised funds for 2 people in active cancer treatment. Then also finally registered and got approval from Abuja for the Survivor Network. Because I realized that there's a missing thing in this wellness conversation. I should be dead without the mercy of God. I could have been in statistics without, guess what, aftercare. So while we are focusing on prevention, early detection, the Survivor Network that we registered is to take care of aftercare.
That's the point. Now, here's how I battle. One of my battle strategies is always that while I am in the fight, I give God a manifesto. This is my survivor manifesto. When I get to the end of this journey, this and this and this is who I become and what I do. And that's what I want people. One of the things I want you to leave this particular conversation with today, to recognize that you have survived. Please thrive. Because when you thrive, others will be able to survive. I don't want us to miss that. Don't build a shrine around what happened and forget to do something else with the rest of your life. It will be a total waste of God saving you if you do nothing with the rest of your life.
Pastor Bidemi, this is how I put it. It was a moment. Don't make it a monument. Listen, it was a moment. Don't make it a monument that makes you get stuck. Rather, turn it into a movement and gain momentum with it. Oh my God. This is not a soundbite. This is a wisdom key. It was a moment. Don't enshrine it and make it a monument that causes you to be stuck, that causes you to, it was a moment. Don't make it a monument. Rather, cause it to become a movement and gain momentum with it. So I said to myself, I'm turning my survival into a revival. So we registered these 2 cancer care. The Eden Cancer Care Gift is active. The Survivor Network, we still will do a big launch. And the goal is that to have an annual fundraising specifically for aftercare and caregivers. You hear that too?
Yeah.
And caregivers. Yes. The loss of income through sickness, the loss of income, the loss of manpower when somebody has to care for somebody and the other person is not working. If I didn't go for the 5th checkup, I would have been dead.
So that aftercare is important, extremely important. Yes. So tell me how we can support these initiatives.
So the Eden Cancer Care Foundation, and the reason why I believe that charity not only begins at home, clarity must begin at home. So it's actually in Nigeria, because in that moment when I got diagnosed the second time, Pastor Bidemi, I asked myself, the woman in Enugu, The woman in Kafanchan that is living hand to mouth, if you tell her to go and do biopsy again when her children's school fees have not been paid, she won't do it. So I realize it's not that I'm privileged because I'm better than them. It's just that I have access to some things they don't have. How can I bridge the gap? That's so the Eden Cancer Foundation, we have an account in Nigeria. I can share it with Pastor Demi. You know why? Because I'm a survivor, not once, twice. So that means that everything that is there will go to survivors. There are many good cancer initiatives that are not by survivors that are done well. This is there. There's no other agenda. Is that another Eden, other Edens get the help that Eden was able to get. So we have the accounts in Nigeria. I'll share it with you. And the Survivor Network, when we are formally launching the annual fundraising black tie event, I would invite you, and you can invite your community.
Great, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, these conversations cannot end, but we'll do our bit and we'll step away. And we hope that what we've brought your way is enough to put your mind, set your mind and your hearts in a particular direction. And before we go, we would like to just encourage everyone who's going through. I know this conversation has been focused on Eden's experience of suffering cancer, but we know that suffering is not limited to cancer alone. So no matter what your cancer, what your suffering may look like in the moment, the principles are the same. And if you would just take these principles and you begin to use them. Remember, we talked about the voices that activate faith over you. We talked about making sure that it's not when you are in trouble that you begin to look for. You must know that the firefighter's telephone number before you are in a fire. It's not when you are in a fire you begin to look for the firefighter's number. We talked about being unconsciously negligent. We talked about definitions. We talked about casualty, covenant, and syndrome, where you find yourself aligning by the words that you speak and by the people that you allow to speak over you. We find ourselves talking about attitudes today and all of these many things. The principles are the same.
Oh Lord!
If you deploy the principle, even though this was a conversation of cancer, if you deploy it in divorce, it will work. If you deploy it in a child who's derailing, it will work. Because God's word does not, there are no specific word for, oh, this is just for this. It's a principle and it is out of the word of God. And if you use it, you will get where you need to go. I want to say thank you again to Eden. When we send our email summarizing this conversation today, we would include in that email the account number for our sister and the foundation, and we would encourage you to give to that account and just keep the work going. Remember that aftercare for cancer survivors is a big deal, because if for any reason they have to keep going back for checkups and they run out of whatever they need or they do not have access, then it can cause trouble. You are loved and you are appreciated. Again, we're sorry that we started late. We're not tardy people, but we had these glitches. And we want to say a big thank you to Eden, because she had to stay awake to do this. Next month, the second Saturday of March, we would have another guest and we'll have another empowering conversation on the Naked at Sunrise show. A big shout out to
Pastor Bidemi, something dropped in my spirit. Final word. Very final word. Final word. And this might be controversial, but it is the truth. I looked back. I didn't want the second cancer, but I looked back and realized the second cancer was necessary.
Ooh. Okay. All your God forbid exponents starts. God forbid, God forbid, God forbid. Even me, I'm saying it on your behalf.
Hear this, and this is my final word. The second journey was necessary for you. The things that God did in the second thing are things that I don't know what else could have been done. If I even thought that cancer advocacy for me was optional, God made me know it wasn't optional. In that second cancer, I now became equipped as a healer, as an integrative coach, to now help women with soul healing, And it was in that journey that I recalibrated my life, what I eat, and just became my own advocate, just did some soul searching and realized that even though I was mostly a positive person, that there was a dimension of emotional healing I needed to embrace from years ago, spiritual abuse. I don't know what you think. Don't waste it. The second journey was necessary. And just journey with God. Because if I look back, I don't want to change a thing. I am right where God wants me to be. I needed somebody to hear that. It was
Thank
necessary.
you so much. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the second journey might be necessary for you. And I believe that we're speaking to somebody in particular. And sometimes Eden is either because we failed the first journey and or we left something behind that we did not learn. There is always a lesson if God repeats makes us repeat a class, quote and unquote. Thank you again so much. Olene, thank you for waking up to do this with me. Eden, thank you for staying awake. And thank you all of you for spending your first hour on Saturday morning with me. God bless you. May all your blessings manifest. It's a limitless year. Go and be all that God has called you to be. I'll see you on the second Saturday of March with another guest. And if you have a story that you know that needs to be told, it's authentic, it is faith, full of faith, and it leads to victory. Even if your victory looks different from what people think victory is, please share with me, and you may just be our next guest on the show. Bye bye. God bless you. See you next month. Love